Welcome to Shonen Flop Chibi, a First Impressions mini-episode where we talk about the first chapter of the series that we'll be covering in depth next week. I'm Jordan, and with me today, as usual, is my co-host, David. Say hi, David.
Hey, what's up? We are balling today, aren't we, Jordan? And by
that's
that,
not
I mean
what I asked
hi,
you to
David.
say, but that's cool. Yeah, we are balling today, yeah. I would describe us both as ballers. If somebody came up to us,
Yes.
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, especially high ballers like David.
Sure. Anyway, what series are we covering this week, David?
We are doing Nine Dragons Ball Parade. AKA, as Tucker has let us know, is Kowloon's Ball Parade. Yeah, the name of the series in English doesn't make a ton of sense, which might have contributed to it getting canceled.
Yeah, I could not, remember the title of this series until this morning. I was like, oh yeah, 9 Balls Dragon Parade, right?
Yeah, it's literally
the dragon
why
with 9 balls. Yeah,
it's literally why we have the guest on the main episode is because of the name of the series. But who's that guest?
Yeah.
You'll have to listen in if we give you a hint besides the hint we just gave.
Oh yeah, guys, this is now an ARG. You've got to figure out who it is. Just decipher the coordinates. What did I just say? Get that? Slow it down. Who fucking knows?
Jordan, that's a strange opinion you have about the Irish, but let's keep going.
Work harder on the ARG, and you might figure out what the fuck that joke meant.
There's a fake Steven Universe episode called Pearl Hates the Irish that I was thinking of.
Good. Anyway, as she should. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, we're reading Nine Dragons Ball Parade, and that went for 3 volumes and 20 chapters. And David, who's it by?
It is by Mikiyasu Kamada.
Doesn't look like he's done anything else on this note sheet, at least.
Because we don't talk about that in Chibi episodes, so.
That's true.
Also, Mal was down, so I couldn't do any research.
Oh, damn. There was a serious cyber attack on the fucking My Anime list. God damn.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't only just me, right? And they're like, no, 2 other people in Discord were like, yeah, this is just completely down. Mm-hmm. So, Jordan, though, you mind telling me a bit about what the series is about?
I would love to, David. High school baseball is some serious shit. No one believes that more than Tamao Azukoda, a shy, nerdy kid who has worked hard to come out of his shell and try out for the Hakuo Gakujin, the most dominant baseball team in the league. After 2 years of highly specific training and an immense amount of research on other players, Azukoda is ready to try out for the catcher's position. At the tryouts, Azukoda meets Tao Ryudo, an easygoing and seemingly lazy dude who nonetheless pitches like a fucking bullet while bugging Azukoda about basic baseball concepts. The players are all separated into 2 teams for an exhibition match, and Azukoda is able to use his weirdly in-depth knowledge on the psychology of specific high schoolers to win the match. Despite this, the catching position is given instead to a big muscly dude from America, and Azukoda is crushed. Ryudo catches up to him, saying that he turned down his offer from the team and challenges Azukoda to help him put together the best baseball team ever!
Yeah!
Yeah!
Woo! Yeah!
Sports!
Yeah.
So, David, what are your first impressions after reading the first chapter?
Moneyball, the shonen mangas.
It's more like Moneyball 21.
9 Moneyballs parade.
Yeah. I shield 9 balls, yeah.
Yeah, there's I would say, we posted in the chat, I was like, I feel like just calling it Dragon Balls as a Moneyball parody is the low-hanging fruit. And so I'm like, we can probably do better, especially because we have an expert in this topic. But I'm like, that is really perfect.
Sometimes the obvious choice is the best one.
Yeah, that. I assume that's probably why the word ball is in the name of the series.
I feel like nobody at Shonen Jump looked at this and didn't think, dragons and ball are right next to each other.
Yeah.
I'm sure that somebody knows what fucking Dragon Ball is in fucking Shonen Jump.
Yeah. Yeah, you ever hear of this character called Goku?
From Journey to the West?
That would be hilarious, actually, if it was Don to Don, where they didn't say what the main character's name is at the end, and the other dude asks, he's like, oh, by the way, what's your name? And he just goes, Goku. And then that would have been the best thing ever.
And my last name is Vegeta.
Yeah. Son Goku.
No, I know. Oh, yeah.
But to get into other thoughts, I think the art is very clean. I was really thinking this is actually the perfect art style to translate into an anime because it was just very polished and it actually had a lot of really good use of gray tone. I was just surprised how much gray tone was in the series.
You know something? The art is kind of interesting because of how uninteresting it is in some ways. Like, it completely blends in. Like, I read the whole thing, and there was usually when I'm reading these series, I'm thinking about the art all the time and like critiquing somebody's art or thinking, oh, wow, that was really good. Here, it didn't even occur to me to fucking think about the art.
Yeah.
It was so boilerplate, but, like, I think that's fine. I think in some ways that's actually very good because, like, from a certain point of view, if you're reading a manga or a comic and you're distracted by the art, then the art is kind of fucked up.
Yeah. And Tucker is also just in the comments right now as he's listening to us, reminding us that the word Dragon Ball actually does not appear in the Japanese title, so that is purely an English idea. So they were probably trying to get that good SEO for the series.
Yeah, now then that means it was 100% intentional.
Yeah.
That means that, like, they could have translated it differently and specifically chose not to.
Yeah, I would actually be curious, maybe for the main episode, Tucker, if you have any opinions of what you would have translated it to in English, I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are. But Jordan, though, we haven't talked about probably the biggest issue of this series, where it has by far the fastest any percent speedrun of having a exam arc for any manga series.
That is true. However, I'm going to cut this series some slack. It's not really, like, usually when there's an exam arc, the point is that they have to have the person get accepted by the exam and then, like, okay, now the real thing can begin. But since, like, the point of this is that they don't get in.
Yeah.
And you see that, like, no, like, they totally should have gotten in. Like, they didn't take Azukoda. The manager guy goes up to him and says, hey, you know, you're really smart, but, like, we got a bunch of smart people here, so, like, we're really only looking for himbos.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually very fair. Also, baseball tryouts are literally built into the fabric of the sport. It's, like, not like they were making an excuse. Like, it's just, that's normal.
It's kind of like, this is sort of how you do an exam arc correctly. Like, there's nothing wrong with having an exam as, like, a plot point in a manga or anything if it, like, makes sense. The problem is that it just feels like it gets shoehorned into, like, everything where it just doesn't belong. Here, it absolutely belongs. It makes total sense.
Yeah, and I also appreciate that they played baseball in the first chapter. Like, remember Beast Children? Yeah. It was, like, chapter 7 when they actually played rugby.
Do you think this guy read Beast Children and was like, oh, so this is what I shouldn't do?
Yeah. Well, that explains why the main character was like, I just want to catch a ball. And he kept saying that all the time.
That's true. You know something? I was gonna say, like, that my power word was balls, but I think I used that for Beast Children.
Man. I did legitimately like this. I think that maybe it didn't make baseball seem quite as interesting, but I think seeing as how the highest standard I have for sports manga is iShield 21, nothing is probably, because this series is probably not going to get cartoonish like that, since it's trying to be all like maths and shit.
I mean, I'm just going to go out and say this is not going to be as good as iShield 21, and that's not even a knock against this series. iShield 21 is just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's like being like, this is no Chainsaw Man. I also think this series actually legitimately makes being the catchers seem actually, like, cool. I don't know sports very well, and I assume catcher was kind of like, you know, it's like after being in, like, the outfield kind of doesn't really matter, but seeing what they do, that's actually a very interesting tactical element. Like, now I kind of feel like the catcher is like the base player of a baseball team where they're never the star, but if they're not doing a good job, you can really tell.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. I mean, like, I'm also not a baseball expert, but I think I know a little more than you. Catchers are very important because when they fuck up, it ruins the whole thing. Because, like, if a catcher can't catch the ball, if a catcher can't get the balls he needs to, your whole team is fucked over, like, a stupid little mistake.
Yeah, I'm just also thinking of Catcher in the Rye right now.
Catcher in the 9 balls.
Yeah, Catcher in the 9. Catcher in the 9.
There we go. There we go.
That's actually really good shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
what if Azukoda was as miserable as Holden Caulfield?
Sleep tight, you morons.
Yeah. Oh man. But I will say I liked this series. I liked this chapter actually. The way that Azukoda really does introduce all this strategy into it. It really does make it feel way more interesting, you know?
Do you want them to do more of the mathematical part of it? Or do you think, like, that was enough just to set the tone and now it's just kind of like, we know he's good at it. We don't really care about, like, seeing any of the applied statistics he's using.
I want them to use more of it because I feel like the way that he used it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing his thought process. This could be like kind of almost a baseball like version of like Death Note if I feel like it's done right. I don't know. Like very strategic.
I legitimately think this series could be educational if that was the direction. Like this could have been like the Dr. Stone of applied statistics.
How ironic, because you know what the author of Dr. Stone wrote.
Yeah, Trillionaire Game.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is about finance.
It's just like this.
I do have one serious negative though, because it just sound like you want to transition. And the series doesn't really have a main goal. Like they haven't established like when he builds the team what the point is. Like I kind of get your vibe for it, but you know, like once he builds the team, then what? Like I Showed 21 that they talked about it.
Well, I feel like the whole point is that they're going to build the best team ever and beat the team that they just tried out for. If they didn't say that directly, I thought that was like the direct implication.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But we'll see.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I could be totally wrong. Who the fuck knows? This is a show about flopped manga. This manga did not do well. So maybe they don't do the smart thing, and I'm giving them too much credit.
That's true. But actually, thinking of guesses, Jordan, what were your guesses?
First of all, there will be a weird last-minute twist of fate thing that leads to them playing against Hakuo way sooner than they otherwise should have, because this series is ending in 20 chapters.
I was going to say, I think it's called cancellation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, but I mean, it'll just be like, oh my god, look at the weird luck. We're facing off against them in the first match. You know, that kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah. My next one is the 9 balls of the 9 players that they recruit to fill up their positions.
I feel like that shouldn't even count. That's like literally the point.
Yeah, okay. Well,
that's like if we read One Piece and you'd be like, oh, Luffy will encounter other pirates.
No, it would be like if we read One Piece and Luffy met one pirate.
He did, and then he met other ones. All right, no, it's fine. You can keep it.
Well, here's the thing, David. 2 of my guesses are reliant on this. The next one is we will not meet all 9 balls.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And then my guesses are, I believe, as is tradition, there will be a token female manager, because they always have to have a female manager because they need a gender balance, but what else can she do on the team?
Yeah.
And then I think on that note, there will be a kid who looks like he's an adult that joins the team, and people will make lots of really dumb, that's a teenager jokes.
They more or less kind of hinted that they would do that in the first chapter a little bit with that huge dude from America.
Yeah. And then lastly, we don't see anything about their lives that doesn't have to do with baseball. I had one other guess in that I was kind of 50-50 on, I feel like if the series didn't get canceled, I think they would have lost their first baseball game, but I think they're probably going to win it because the series doesn't have time to have multiple games in it.
Yeah. So David, would you read another 10 chapters of this?
Yeah, I think so. I enjoyed this. I really hope it can subvert my expectations.
I would also read another 10 chapters of this. This was fun.
You can usually tell if a series is fun if people submit a ton of 6-word summaries, and we already had like 5. So I am really excited to read this series with Masako X. And yes, we literally had him on it because the word dragon and ball. Sorry, spoilers. Yes, but we literally are having him on the show literally because the word dragon and ball. For listeners who are unaware, Masako X was, I'm not sure if it's fair to say the creator, but one of the major people that made Dragon Ball Z the Abridged series. He
voiced Goku and Gohan.
Yes.
So he's kind of a big deal, you know?
He's also British, so.
True. That's another factor for, I guess, why we picked this, because they just have cricket, so we wanted to expose him to a better form of that sport.
Exactly. But yeah, and then speaking of cricket, what's your power word?
It's not cricket, but it is actually, you'll like this, David. It is base and then like parentheses D. So it's based. Man. And the D is for David because you like that word.
Oh, I thought it was D because that represents the coefficient value of applied statistics when you're trying to do a linear regression.
It also represents that.
It doesn't because what I just said was gibberish. Fucking got you.
Well, it also represents gibberish.
That makes sense. I was in a similar headspace, and speaking of how Masako X is British, I did maths. And as I posted in our group chat, Google sent me a notification saying, hey, you're spelling it with an S, but you say you're using American English. Do you want to switch to British English for this document? So,
oh, God.
Oh, if the series had gone on, they definitely, or if the anime definitely would have had a cricket filler arc.
They should. You know what? There should be. I hope there's a cricket manga somewhere that like I'm just not familiar with.
Oh, what if one of his players is a cricket player? Oh, that's too out of left field, but that would have been a fun guess.
Maybe they see some dude who's really talented at cricket, and they're like, hey man, no one gives a shit about cricket, but like, if you're really good at cricket, you're probably good at baseball too. Because it's like the same sport,
All
just
right.
like different slightly. But
if that pops up, we'll bring it up in our GB scoring as a mutual guess.
But yeah, David, so
Is it time for the Q&A?
I would say so. I think it's good to go into our question and answer time. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
All right. We have some very fantastic questions. Unfortunately, we didn't have time for 9 questions, and that would have been on theme, but we do have 5. So first of all, from OzyRat, who's listening right now, if you went to a karaoke bar, what song would you pick that best fits you?
I think I would pick the song Angel Witch by Angel Witch from the album Angel Witch.
Is the lyric just Angel Witch over and over again?
That's the chorus of the song. It goes, no, it goes, you're an angel witch, you're an angel witch. David, what would your song be?
Actually, my go-to song is always I Believe in a Thing Called Love, because I can actually sing the high-pitched part, and it always weirds people out.
I would absolutely love to sing that song at a karaoke bar, too.
I believe in a thing called love.
Oh, you must do it.
Oh, my neighbor's banging on my... Yeah. All right, we'll do karaoke at some point next time you come visit. All right. Next is from fellow listener as well, T. Wolfwood, who says best date location in a flopped manga.
David, you have a girlfriend. What would you think is the best date location?
I would take her to
in a
Dolphin
flopped
Island
manga?
from U19. Actually, it seems like a very nice place. We're actually planning a trip to Fiji right now, so she definitely likes tropical islands.
You know what? Similar to that, maybe the island on from Hard Cop.
Hard Cop.
Island.
Hard Cop and Boiled Dolphin.
Boiled Cop. Boiled Dolphin. Yeah. From Hard Cop and Boiled Dolphin. Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
We just we try to go to the island to that. We just wind up on a completely different island. That's
God.
The names are just reversed.
But we do learn how to breathe underwater, so that would be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next up is from JNet, who asks, if we made a fighting game of all the flop protagonists, who would be on the top of the tier list and who would be at the bottom? I think this is a question where, Jordan, why don't we just spitball some ideas? But this would definitely be something fun to really go in depth, along with the Battle Royale question on Patreon. So, Jordan, who would you say, I guess, if you had to do like a Marvel versus Capcom 3 style, like you pick, or like a Fighters style, who would you pick as like snap pick right now? Just thinking about who would you pick as your 3-person team?
Tai and Sei from Double Tai Sei.
Definitely a form change character.
Yeah, definitely a form change character. And like, you know, it's like they're not a fighter in the manga, but like still, they
they throw shogi pieces.
They throw shogi pieces. They do the thing where like they pretend that they're in a shonen manga. They do the thing where it's like they're in space and doing shogi and shit.
Again, Jordan, they never went to space. We just assumed they would have at some point.
Fuck! I really assumed that, huh?
It's like a Bernstein Bear effect where you just keep thinking that there was an arc where they went into space, but it just because it fits so well with the tone of that series.
I didn't mean to do that either. I was just like, oh yeah, they went to space. That's amazing. So that, I do feel like Jin from, like Jim Naruto.
Yeah.
I feel like he would be broken.
Yeah.
Like he would just be like a cheap character.
Well, he's like Storm in Marvel vs. Capcom too.
Yeah, except worse, I guess. I guess I would not pick him. Ooh, let's see. I always have to remember everything. I would pick Zipman.
Zipman? Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Zipman would have a cool-ass moveset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then finally, I think that I would pick the main character of Candy Flurry.
Oh, that's a solid choice.
Yeah, and her super move would be she turns her lollipops into Gigantor.
That's a good 5 bar special. Let me see. I think that the kids from Double Arts would be fun because they'd be like those characters that are like really hard to use, but would be like S tier if you knew what to do with them.
Kind of like an ice climber duo.
Yeah, they'd be the ice climbers.
Literally. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, except if you kill them in the wrong... Actually, it's the same thing with the ice climbers, where if you kill Popo but not Nana, he survives. So it's the same thing where she dies if you kill the guy first, she just dies.
If you kill either of them, she dies, but if you just kill her, he's fine.
Yeah, that's exactly how the ice climbers work.
Yeah.
Oh, man, in Project M, they had the Ike climbers.
The Ike climbers?
There was 2 Ikes dressed up as ice. Yeah, it was great.
That's hilarious.
I would do that. I think Morking also would be pretty good. He could use his beetle attacks.
Use beetle attacks? Yeah.
He'd be a good striker. And then I'm trying to think of someone. I feel like you'd want someone with a good projectile attack for spacing. So I am going to say that actually the dude from U19 might be good because he actually would be a really good zoner with his thread stuff.
I see.
He would definitely have a really good assist.
When you said projectile, my mind immediately went to Robo from Robot Laserbeam.
Oh, yeah. Just imagine if we made a show.
Hey, okay, actually, a fighting game character who only uses golf balls and is based on golfing and stuff, that might be actually pretty good.
He does have a super move in series.
Yes. He just shoots the ball really straight.
Yeah, that's a fun question. I need to make a Google Doc with all the protagonist names because it's easier to remember, but at some point we will go through this and we have to do that, at least the Battle Royale, and talk about who would probably win a tournament.
Yeah.
That was a fun question. Next up, though, is from T-Root. So we actually had all three of the Ghostwriters or transcription team putting in questions, so love you all, who asked, if you could reboot any canceled series we've covered, what would it be and how would you retool to make it less cancelable? So Jordan, I'm going to put a stipulation that this has to be a series that we said was at least a flop because fixing a series that was already good is too easy.
Yeah, no shit, yeah. Maybe it's just because it's fresh in my mind, but I would reboot U19. I feel like that series had a ton of potential. There's a lot of really good stuff in there, but he's trying so hard to go for his metaphor that he screws up actually having characters, really.
That's fair.
I would really tone that down a lot because I feel like you get it after a certain point.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I would go with Iron Knight because, again, I really think the idea of making Shin Megami Tensei or Berserk for kids is a really cool space, and just having this sense of despair but not being overly violent or brutal is just a really cool space that you could play in. So essentially use the good parts from the first chapter and build off of that. Yeah, just completely pretend that everything that came after the first chapter didn't exist and start from there. Yeah, and the kind of weird incest subplot. Yeah, let's just translate it better. Yep, I would say. Yes. And then finally, Jordan, I saved this question for last. It is from the Stone Hermit. This one is directed at you, who asks, Jordan, I'm a first-year art student. As a former art student yourself, what tips or advice could you give me? Here's the basic thing about art school. You're going to make a lot of art that you hate. That's how it is. It's just how it is. You're not there to become a good artist at the end of your time there. You really aren't. What you're there to do is to learn how, in the future, as you keep working at it, you will become a great artist. Because it's really kind of a lifelong journey, you know? It's a frustrating thing about art, but it's also a great thing about art. You can do it all your life, basically. So just don't get discouraged if you make work that you hate, because that's how you get better. The work that you make that you don't like is the stuff that you learn the most from. And yeah, just hang in there. And if you keep doing stuff, eventually you'll get to a point where you really like your stuff. Oh man, that's a great question. Also, you should just read Blue Period, because that explains everything Jordan just said in a manga. Or Time Paradox Ghostwriter. Two good series. Yeah. Blue Period, though, was definitely not a flop as an anime adaptation. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that one. That's the series with trans rights and thick women, so what more could you want? Well, if it's in art school, then it would have to be trans rights, because that's called realism. Yeah. I'm going to make a manga about art school, and oh wow, there isn't a single gay guy in this. Okay. Anyway, shall we go to shout outs? Yeah. All right. So first of all, Jordan, I want to thank you for editing this chibi, along with Dylan, our super awesome editor, who you can check out his work on Anime Out of Context. I also want to give props to Shanna for the awesome cover art. You can find her online at Illuminati. Thanks to Tucker, who's listening right now, for your assistance with pronunciation, translation, and other miscellaneous research. Thanks to Luke for being our community producer. You can find us on Twitter at Shonen Flopcast and our website, shonenflop.com. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcast. And Spotify now has podcast reviews. If you've been enjoying the show, we'd appreciate if you took the 10 seconds to give us 5 stars. If you already have, you're the best. And be sure to join the Shonen Flop Discord. Come hang out with us and talk about anime, games, or whatever else is on your mind. We also have a book club and do regular movie nights. You can find a link to it in our show notes. And if you've been enjoying the podcast and want to help us keep going, consider subscribing to our Patreon. I have a ton of awesome perks like bonus episodes on Magu-chan, Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, and PPPPP, which somehow has not been canceled. Really? What? Do you know what chapter it's on? It's on 20. It's not in the U19 club. Oh my god. Right? perhaps the coolest perk is actually you could be listening to us recording this episode right now, just like some of our awesome patrons are doing. And you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/shonenflop. And on that note, I want to give a list of our wonderful patrons.
I was just say, I really hope that PPPPPP gets an anime adaptation, because that would be really funny.
Maybe it'll be funded by our Chainsaw Man level patrons, which are, one day I'll think of a proper patron name. For now, call me Wolfwood and Pterodactyl Ghost. Moving on down to the King of the Forest, we have Albie, Gabe Lando. I'm not reading all that. Kylie Denton, Mark, Matt Solovich, Marty, Rachel, Scarlett Mirmanen, the BBB King, BBB the. And moving on past that is the Galactic Ball Federation officers. We have Alexander Zorak, Blah Mumu, BS, Dylan Crider, Generic Man, Hans, Marabaro, Mike Carpenter, Sarah Hydra, Shingo Sekimoto, Silly Rookie, Staghorn, That One Welder Guy, Trevor Schechner, Tristan Denna, and Yaji Black. Thank you all so much for being fantastic patrons. Could not be doing the show without you.
Absolutely.
And then if you're not ready for a regular commitment, consider buying some merch. We've got some pretty awesome designs like the Gomez Moon shirt and the Mashed Up Punching Harry Potter shirt. And a portion of those proceeds go back to the original artist to boot.
Not only that, you guys, by the time you're hearing this, we will probably have our website up.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yes. Jordan's been hard at work, so we're excited about that.
Oh, yes. I've been working hard in the website mines, wiping sweat from my brow, the microfiber cloth. Yeah, so if it's up, then it should be at shonenflop.com.
Yeah, it's very easy.
There you go. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. And then thank you so much for listening. Tune in next Monday where we have our full episode on Nine Balls Dragon Parade, featuring, as we mentioned, the legendary Masako X.
You said Nine Balls Dragon Parade, didn't you?
Sorry. Thanks so much for listening.
Don't apologize. That's the best part. Yeah.
Yeah. Say your line, Jordan.
9 balls.
God, Dylan's gonna make some audio of that, I'm sure.
I thought there were only 7. All right, but thanks so much for listening, everybody. This has been Jordan.
This has been David.
And you've been listening to Shonen Flop. David, say it.
Bye.
Oh, bye.
Oh, sorry. Keep on flopping, floppers.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Bye.